Welcome to the Industry Angel Podcast. We hear from the best business minds across the globe. Entrepreneurs, social influencers, marketing mavens, and sales rock stars. We've got them all. Here comes your weekly dose of inspiration with your host, Ian Farrar.
Welcome to the November 2017 live edition of the Industry Angel. Today we have the co-founder of Gym Plan, a man who is immersed in the tech scene. He has first-hand experience of the investment world and knows the mechanics of startup inside and out. Welcome to the Industry Angel, Paul Slater. Now, you guys might not know this, but Paul and I actually went to school together.
Yep.
So we are actually the same age. Seriously?
You look younger than me.
Well, that's remarkable, isn't it? So we're at the amazing One Trinity Green, courtesy of South Tyneside Council, and we're under the banner of Tech Talks tonight. So I guess we better do that, Paul.
Yep.
And what better man to do that but you? You're certainly someone in that space right now, but if you could wind it back a little bit, tell us about the early days. Not when we had beautiful hair, but maybe when you first started and got interested in the startup world.
Yeah. I was 24 when I started my first business over on the BIC, and that was a design company. It was actually not my intention to have a design company. It was to help fund a different idea that I had, which was at the time, Google used to give you extra search engine ranking sort of weight based on how deep people used to dredge through your pages of your website and stuff like that. So I had an idea for a traffic generation service, and it failed. So long story short on that one, while we were trying to get that off the ground, we started developing designing websites for people and stuff like that. And incidentally, I sold my first website when we didn't even know how to build a website.
Excellent.
So that's winging it. And yeah, so that kind of, what I discovered was about 9 years, 6 months later, the original idea obviously had long died and ended up in a company, which is a great company. I'm no longer there now, obviously, but doing something I didn't want to do. That wasn't the intention for getting in business originally. It was a great business. Thoroughly enjoyed my time doing it. I learned an immense amount in regards to customer experience and things like that. But yeah, so went on to the design company, and then after that, after I wanted to move on and kind of realise some of the original dreams I had, if you like, if you want to get more cliche on it, and ended up in a bit of an 18-month stopgap. In a different business, which I thought was the answer to what I was looking for, and truth be told, I was probably performing at the worst of my life during those 18 months. So that particular idea didn't actually pan out. But what it did lead to, right?
Where's this going?
Yeah, what it did lead to was being able to. I met a guy in the gym who was training us. A guy called David Stidolf, who's co-founder of Gym Plan. Thoroughly enjoyed the way he was training me. Knew I wanted to get back onto the startup horse, if you like, and managed to pursue. He just actually had a baby as well at the time, so he took a bigger risk than me, but managed to get him to agree to leave his nice stable job and have a crazy idea with me of setting up a gym training app. Well, I tell that it was actually a website originally. And so that's kind of the backstory, if you like, of how we ended up with, it was called Fit Gurus. We've recently rebranded to Gym Plan. There's a little story of that I'll tell you in a minute, actually. But yeah, so that was 3 years ago. Can you believe that? 3 years ago. So we've been in the startup trenches full on for the last 3 years.
You know, it's interesting there because you've mentioned that you've pivoted a couple of times. So the first one, you were going to do that Google thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that idea, crikey, I was 24, I didn't know what I was doing, you know.
It's very honest, isn't it? You know, there's nothing but honesty that's coming out of me.
Yeah, I mean, what was interesting about it was we actually managed to get 1.5 million page views for websites that we'd kind of hooked this competition thing into, but still failed. So, you know what I mean? So, but anyway, I mean, that's a real distant memory, that one. But yeah, there's been a number of, I mean, even if you look at Fit Gurus, there's been a number of pivots. I may as well tell that quick
Go
one
for your
now.
life, yeah.
We originally set up with a quick MVP. It was a website that, just using WordPress. I built it in like 4 weeks or something. And Dave and another co-founder was still working in gyms at the time. And I was at home, we're chatting via WhatsApp. And that's how we set the whole thing up, just via WhatsApp. I've still got the history on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I love looking at it, because all the decisions and all the things I was absolutely sure of were complete nonsense. So you look back and you think, yeah, that was wrong. Yeah, that was wrong. It was all wrong.
So that's your proof, isn't it? You founded a business with somebody, and you've got it. I've got the proof here in this WhatsApp.
Yeah. At least I've got a nice sort of audit trail of all the bad decisions I've made. So we built a website which just had, and we did some of the textbooks things that most people don't, the opposite of the textbook things that people do. So we started, there was no way to try it out without paying and stuff like that. So again, pretty silly decisions sometimes, but what we were trying to do early doors with this website, which was to say, right, okay, can we get people that are interested in training in the gym, can we get these guys to pay for the information that we can give them? Yeah, so it's just basically workouts at the time. So I wanted to validate that super quick, and I thought there was no better way to validate that than would somebody actually pay straight away. So I think we sold 54 subscriptions, and it was our pricing model was based on, hey, Netflix are doing subscriptions. Theirs is $4.99, so we'll do that, regardless of the fact that Netflix are like completely awesome, right? And we were just giving out, basically, I've still got the screenshots as well of the original design, and it's cringeworthy. It was basically just like a sheet, a bit like looking at a Word document.
It's like episode 1 of this podcast. I would never listen to it.
Yeah, it's terrifying when you look back. But yeah, so we got 54 people paying, and it wasn't parents, which was a good sign. It was there was people we didn't know on there, so what I did this time around, which I hadn't done in any other thing that I'd been involved in, I thought, because I'd read a ton of the business books, I had like a bit of a 6-month time on South Shields Beach listening to business books, trying to figure out what to do with my life, and before my wife was going to actually kill me. So I'd listened to them all, some great ones, and basically one thing that stood out that I hadn't been doing before was I'd never reached out to anyone and looked for a mentor or anything like that. And I'm the first to say I don't know much, so I thought, well, I'll do this, I'll go on LinkedIn. So I reached out on LinkedIn. I was very, very fortunate. A guy called Richard Exley, who's our chairman to this day.
Did you just put a shout out there? Did you actually pinpoint him?
I went on LinkedIn. I says, hey, we're starting a fitness business, and this is what we're trying to achieve. Blah blah blah. Looking for a mentor, somebody that can talk sense into her, and if they're interested in fitness, that could actually be a real boon, And sure enough, Richard Exley does competitive cycling. He's always trained. He used to rock climb. He's a total badass. He's got amazing forearms, like much better than mine. And we got on great. So we met in Coffee Bean up in Newcastle. And he was like, I think you've got something. He was former North Star Ventures. So what he did was then put us in touch with Ignite, and Tristan and Paul and Lindsay at Ignite back in 2014. And you could say the rest is history, but to be honest, that LinkedIn post, if you like, was, if you go back to that, that's why we're still here today. Because the chain of events that happened because of that, reaching out and asking for a mentor, is honestly, literally would have died long ago. Because that introduced us to Ignite. Ignite accepted us, and they're an awesome
do you want to tell us a little bit about Ignite?
So Ignite is a startup accelerator based in, at the time it was in Campus North in Newcastle. I've got ones in Manchester and London now. And yeah, I'll be honest, and I've said this when we do fireside chats with with Ignite is I actually didn't even know what an accelerator was, and accepted the position on it. So I got a bit of a shock.
There's a bit of a theme going on here, isn't it?
So I got a bit of a shock when I realised what it actually entailed. So it was 4 months of literally the hardest sort of mental challenge, if you like. So you're just having your business idea put through. Just people, so many different mentors that have been there and done it. From across the country, investors, people that have bought and, built up and sold many different tech businesses and stuff like that. And they just basically take your idea and just tear it apart. And then you piece it back together again, and they tear it apart, and then and they teach you a lot of good things. I think one of the biggest takeaways I got from the accelerator program was every week you had to do an investor, like a mentor update, because we didn't have investors at that time. And what that did was it actually makes you really accountable publicly accountable for some progress. And if I'm sitting in the house, building the original website via WhatsApp, and I'm not accountable to anybody really, am I? You're just sort of like putting pressures on yourself. So I thought, right, well, if we're going to come out the other end of this accelerator program and actually have a good story to tell and potentially be in a position to raise money, if we still believe in what we're doing, there's no point going raising money if you've just got a completely rubbish idea. I want to see green numbers on whatever metric it is each week that we're sending out. And I'm a bit embarrassed about this. So we used to...
don't know where this is going to go, mate. We'll have not.
So we used to actually report on how many new Twitter followers we'd got.
Wow, nice
right?
metric.
Yeah. I mean, totally pointless. And
vanity metrics.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, it was literally vanity metrics 101. But what I was, trying to sell was, people are interested,
Yeah. Were you just following, just sitting like in your bed at night, just follow?
Well, we were growth hacking.
They'll follow back. Yeah,
we were doing all the growth hacking, and of course, doing all these things that kind of semi-frowned upon by your traditional marketer. But I tell you what, when you're in a startup with no money, you'll do growth hacking. So don't knock it till you've tried it. And so we used to report on all sorts of metrics and stuff like that were meaningless and made no difference to whether the business would ever be a success. But one metric that we did have was that we were managing to secure personal trainers to get involved. And it was there were some really great people that were meeting, and that was Dave more so than me. He would reach out on Twitter and basically talk to different personal trainers, because David's the personal trainer in the team, and he would find people with the same mentality that he had towards training. So that there was a like-mindedness, if you like, among the Fit Guru team, because it was called Fit Gurus at the time. He used to basically just DM people on Twitter and say, hey, do you want to start contributing content to Fit Gurus? Where this is our idea. We're trying to grow this out. We want our dream, if you like, is for you to have some sort of supplementary income, because it sucks working 60 hours a week in a gym as a PT. I'd never done it, but I can only assume it sucks. And, people not turning up and this, that and the other. And, there's some incredibly good knowledge. And if you're not necessarily somebody that likes to be in the limelight in the fitness industry, but you've got the knowledge, you've got the ability to be able to help people. So we that was the initial idea. Can we create a trainer marketplace as such, perhaps it makes, say, $500 a month of supplementary income. Well, I was talking dollars because we just haven't managed to make any impression on the UK whatsoever.
So all your client base is over the pond, yeah?
Yeah, always has been.
Yeah.
Most of the trainers originally were in the US as well. It's just a different outlook, especially in fitness. There's a much more positive. And I don't know if it's because in America, perhaps the introduction of a coach early on in sports and stuff like that. There's a real sense of value in seeking advice from a coach and stuff like that.
I think they're open to coaches right across the life. Life coaches, business coaching, and they're very open to that. So
David was securing. Well, we got the end of Ignite, and honestly, I cannot sing its praises enough. It really schooled me. I mean, I'd been in business for 10 years, working with some great people and learned an awful lot. But I tell you what, I didn't half feel schooled at the end of that. It wasn't just kind of how to do accounts, which to me, that a startup, like the CEO role of a startup, basically you do the accounts.
Do you know how to do accounts now?
I do, only because I made sure we got a very good accountant. So one of our investors actually did comment to say that in regards to how Fit Gurus is financially reported on a month-on-month basis, yous are out there, yous are amazing. I wish all of our clients were like that kind of thing. I can't really take the credit because
just take it.
All I did was take a PDF from these very smart people and just go, there you go. You know? So yeah. Anyway, going back to David, hustling away on Twitter to get the trainers. So we needed a bit more substantial metric at the time to be able to get to kind of graduate the accelerator program, and
So essentially, you're looking for money.
yeah,
You're looking for money to grow. Were you going to grow the team, or just grow the business, or grow the marketing?
Well, the biggest problem was that we had it was all web based, and we were never going to make it in the in the fitness game without an app. It's as simple as that.
Right.
So that was, and I was building. So I was doing the design and the build, and I swear to God, I would never hire me to do either of those roles, ever.
Wow,
right?
I love your honesty, man.
Yeah, but seriously.
You realise this is like everywhere.
Yeah, I tell everyone that. And this is why I've got people like Mark working for. He's really smart tech, you know.
Really?
And we'll work with other people. There are obviously lots of different people as well. You can you can get by knowing enough to build something good enough to test a hypothesis. Yeah.
That sounded good.
That sounded all right.
Yeah,
didn't it?
that's good.
So you can do that. But, in regards to this, I mean, another thing I always say is when we get this business where I want to be, I'm going to have to step down as the pretendee CEO, because I'm not the type of, I'm more of a starter than a kind of, do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's some point, when I get to where we want this to be, I'm going to have to step out of it, That's just how I feel. I mean, it might change at the time, but I think that's probably the wisest choice for the business. So anyway, I'm jumping around here, but Dave was hustling in the trainers. Basically, they were providing content. They were doing it for free as well because they just liked Dave. Right?
Not you.
Well, I never used to really talk to them because I was dealing with the design and the build, and that intensive sort of period during Ignite. It's honestly, it's mental. I used to avoid going for the beers afterwards because I would have had a mental breakdown.
Did you both do it, or just yourself?
Oh yeah. We
both did it.
Yeah, and you used to do trips down to London, down to Google campus in London.
What about the LinkedIn guy?
Well, he was an investor. I'm sure he was an investor in Ignite.
Right.
But anyway, he was very, very connected.
So just the both of you?
He used to mentor teams and stuff like that. There was 3 of us originally.
Right.
And the program can be quite tough, and not necessarily everyone will see it right the way through. There was lots of people out of teams that would kind of just realise it's not for them. There's nothing wrong with anyone's performance. It's just kind of when you get in there and you've got to really want to do it. Do you know what I mean? And you've got to really want to and enjoy that process. I like getting punched around a bit. Do you know what I mean? So I wasn't really bothered about. No, what I mean is.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
The actual idea. I loved it when. Because I'd sooner solve problems than try and sort of pretend that everything's okay. Do you know what I mean? So there was so many flaws with the original business model as well, So it was nice that people were given the time, and this is a great thing about the Ignite program is you've got some really, really super smart people and really interesting investors that are willing to come and sit and give you some seriously good advice and also tell you. Don't remortgage your house based on that advice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So we ended up graduating Ignite, and we wanted to do a round. We were dead lucky. We managed, again, the power of good relationships with people. We managed to get a significant UK investor, angel investor, to be interested in one.
Just one?
To be honest, that's all it took to light the fire,
Yeah.
And then from there, we ended up doing a proper funding round. So that was interesting.
So when he did he back you, or did he back the product? Did he just like you guys, or was it the actual product?
Oh, he might kill us for saying this, but he actually. I remember actually saying Because I said, oh, I've even been on the website, and he'd actually invested at that point, and he went, no. And I was like, oh. And he just said, no, it's just, I'm investing in you guys. And
That's
I think
why I asked him.
with angel investors, that happens an awful lot in very early stage startups. It's kind of, are these guys going to do anything? Are they the type that'll, learn, listen, and actually execute, based on, what they're learning. And I'd like to think that one of the big things that Ignite sort of taught me, if you like, was experimentation. So we've experimented and continue to this day. It's literally part of the DNA of how we do it. I'll never settle. No matter, let's say if it was an 80% conversion on something, then you'd still test it, right? Why not? You could get 90. So you've just got to I love that. I love that constant experimentation and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that the round, we were actually one of the first UK companies to close part of their round on Angel List, which was big in the States, like crazy money investment in the States, and they just launched in the UK. So, do you remember, you've ever read in a lot of business books where they'll say, timing's a really big thing? Well, that's an occasion where timing was a really big thing. So it happened that angel investor was wanting to run a syndicate of other angel investors on Angel List, and we just so happened to be in the right place at the right time, I guess. Obviously, the idea, I'll tell you, was awesome.
And it was all yours.
And we've changed it now. But yeah, right place, right time. We managed to. We were one of the. Well, because we were one of the first, I'm pretty sure. Honestly, I think this is true. I think we were the first to close around. I'm confident of that, so I'll put that out there in the UK. But can you imagine, right? I don't know how to raise money at the time, and Ignite were brilliant. I mean, they would. They would be helping you with your cash flows. There'd be even the terminology of. I remember taking a call from one of the guys at Angel List, and it's just I could die at the thought of this. He said, "What's your runway?" I went, "What?" He went, "What's your runway?" And I think, "Oh, what's a runway?" I mean, how pathetic can you get? I mean, at the time, I really didn't, and I should have known that. So, but yeah, so. The Ignite program kind of, really supported you through that whole thing. Things like putting together a cash flow for to raise investment. And don't forget, David and I are basically product guys, really. He writes the content. I love designing customer experiences. I care way more about the customer than I do about revenue. Well, that is all the investors.
I'll edit that out. It's fine. Yeah. So thinking about that though, you raised money, and that was a view to be able to grow, or to be able to get your own premises, or to have more tech, or
to get some extra members of the team.
Okay.
It was to be able to build the product that we should have always been building. Because it can't just go on forever. I mean, this MVP was fine, It was allowing us to answer some fundamental questions. But until such a time that we actually had an app in the App Store, we weren't in the game,
And was that something you would write internally, or were you outsource that? Or?
We hired the guy, that Mark, who takes care of all the infrastructure, so things like the API, because we wanted... we didn't want to just build a native app that was, sort of every time you'd need to push an update for to put new content in. So it's kind of there's a nice robust. We've always built the platform based on where we want to be, but with a nice sort of scrappy, lean startup attitude to it. Do you know what I mean? Because otherwise you can burn through your cash super quick. This is a big mistake everybody makes. They'll try to build the world.
Yeah.
I've done bits of mentoring and stuff like that with people with early initial ideas, and they're like, "Oh, right, needs to do this, needs to do this, needs to do this, needs to do this." Like, if you ever read the Lean Startup, what's just the one thing that if that doesn't pan out, the whole thing's dead. So really, you should only really focus on making sure you can validate that. Then it makes sense to me. So our sort of initial one thing, if you like, was, do people want to take on the style of workouts that we're giving and pay for them? If there aren't, doesn't matter how many trainers we get and stuff like that. It's all irrelevant, isn't it? Because we're kind of just perpetually go on forever without making any money.
So you've got this app in the App Store now, you've got your money, you've got the team, you've got the app in the App Store. What about, we still working out of home, everybody?
No, we were in Campus North.
You were in Campus North?
Yeah, so we, at the end of when we did the round, at the end, we kind of spoke to Campus North and said, is there anywhere you can house us here? Though I'm not very sociable, right? But I absolutely was terrified of leaving the Campus North setup. Because I honestly thought it'd be like putting the brakes on. I don't know, it's just something about it, once you get it, and I urge anybody, doesn't matter what the accelerator is or whatever the startup community is, but I would urge anybody to get involved if you can, even if you're a bit sort of like, antisocial like me, once you're in it, it's the knowledge sharing, the support, even just being able to stand, having a cup of tea next to somebody and just say, yeah, things are shite. It's way better than sitting in the house on WhatsApp.
In your shorts.
Yeah, in your shorts. I honestly couldn't imagine not being there. We've been there for the last 3 years. Got a little cupboard.
So you've been talking there and I've been scribbling away sometimes. I've got pivot, and lots of little arrows going around because, if that was a message what we've said tonight, it's very much so you've done your minimal viable product, you've done a lot of testing, you've done a lot of pivots, you haven't polished something and then took it to market, you've just got it out there and moved. What's next?
We've spent the last 12 months talking to customers.
What do you want out of this?
Well, I mean, just not even just about anything. Just talk about the training. Have they got DOMs? Are they sore off the gym? It doesn't matter.
Do you want to tell everyone what DOMs are?
Yeah, DOMs, delayed onset muscle soreness type of thing. So basically, it's you go training and then you're very sore. It's normally day one. I get day two DOMs. I don't know if that's some sort of weird thing, but anyway, it's a term that anyone who trains will understand, and it's sometimes people wear it with a badge of honour if you're particularly sore.
Your forearms don't get sore, do they? Because you need to work on them, mate.
I need to work on a lot, to be honest. I always say this. I am basically I'm a highly active customer.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Because I've worked. In fact, I've written it down. In the last 12 months, I've done 440 workouts, 540 hours, and 168,000 reps in the last 12 months. Now, here's another tip.
Oh, that was where you didn't applause.
No,
you know
no,
what I mean? Do you see how he paused there, like waiting?
I'm not actually trying to make out that I'm anything, because I'm not. But what I'm trying to make out is, as a startup founder, you need to eat your own dog food.
Yeah.
So use your bloody product.
Okay.
Right? Because loads of them don't. So how are you going to experience what it's like? I'm the worst customer of Gym Plan. I moan about it non-stop. This is annoying, that bugs us, this. Why hasn't it got this? Why hasn't it got that? Because 4, sometimes 5 times a week, I'm in the gym using it, and I'm a customer. And I think that's massively important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it was interesting when I said, what's next? And you said you'd just been talking.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
so sorry to drag you back. You've just been talking. Have you got these sort of monetary, that's where we want to be, that's the target we want to be? Is it users? Is it?
Ultimately, it gets to some point, because we've done 2 funding rounds, it gets to a point where you've actually the business has got to wash its face,
Mm-hmm.
You can't just be riding on investment forever. And that, for the founders' sanity, if anything. We get so many people saying how much they like using it.
Okay.
But doesn't necessarily mean to say you'll be a success. So there's a battle going on. I want to give. There's nothing makes us happier than knowing that somebody has gone to the gym or in the gym now, and maybe they weren't. Last month they weren't training in the gym, and now they are. That's a great feeling. This is what I love about this business the most, is that we're getting people doing what I like to do on a night, and I know it's good for them. Yeah, so regardless of whether you're a total gym rat or whether you're just starting out, it doesn't matter. All I care about is we're getting them training, because it can only do good. And then the battle is, how do you actually, how do you fund this, right? So how do we constantly, it's like a never-ending compromise, So we're going up against the likes of, I'm not going to mention names,
Are these competitors?
Competitors.
I'm
I'm not mentioning names, but we've got 3 staff. They're probably I would say the smallest amount of resource in a competitor would probably be about 140 staff. So, and we're not in the US, you know, and I know a lot of people will disagree, but you know, I still think it's tough. It's tough over here for a tech startup. That is the best and the worst thing about what we do. I love the fact that we've only got 3 people and we're growing. Yeah, I do. And there's 10% month-on-month growth, and we've got delighted customers, and we're taking customers from them.
Excellent.
And they've raised like silly money, and they've got loads and loads. I love that. It's great. You know, are we anywhere near them? No. But I tell you what, we'll be nipping at the heels, and that's all you've got to do. You know. So it's a phenomenally tough, challenging thing, because the App Store is brilliant at the same time, as much as it's a nightmare. You know, because if you haven't got a ton of money to get seen, you know, it's really hard.
So you mentioned there about the investors, and you obviously want to wash your own face and start. You know, is the investor hustled? Is he hard, or she, or whoever, a group of, are they really giving you grief every month?
We've got about 38 investors. Yeah, the angel investors, you know, mainly. But we've got a phenomenal VC on, and they're a local VC, North Star, and again, really, really helpful. You know what annoys investors? Not North Star, angel investors. Okay. You could send an update, which is, you know, let's say, you know, it's loads and loads of bad news in the investor update. Now, I maintain the investor update habit as well. That's another thing loads of people forget, is keep everyone up to date with where you're at. If it's going Pete Tong, don't hide. Right? Yeah, the best thing to do is actually get out there and say, oh, it's going Pete Tong and we need help. Right? Because if you don't ask for help, it's never going to, you know, you're never going to get anywhere. But I think what I've found is you could be losing, you know, metrics of whatever is important at that time. But if you send your investor update out and forget to put everyone's email in the blind carbon copy, that is a recipe for disaster. So I always found that weird. But you'll get way more responses. Well, email, you know, it's kind of, I don't want my email dishing out there. And I can understand that, obviously. But sometimes, you know, I say I'm the first to make many errors. But yeah, you can have a terrible monthly update. Ours have never ever been that terrible. Terrible to me because we're not moving at the pace that I would have liked. But then again, I'm always going to be massively critical of that. And when you've made an error in how you are actually structuring the app, you kind of just sort of like then fix it next month. You've got to go through a cycle of, you know, kind of, because it's a bit slower, so you've got to go through a cycle of redeveloping, getting in front of customers, quizzing. And then you'll launch it, and then you've got to measure it and give it enough time, you know, enough time to sort of to be in the App Store. So you've pivoted quite a lot. You've talked about raising finance, you've talked about managing it, lots of the problems that go with that. That has been a good insight, because I think a lot of people from the outside might think, oh, that looks like a really attractive thing to do, is start an app or start a business, and there's a lot that goes with that. People are laughing in the audience there. So thanks for that. I think we should maybe take it to the floor and just get a couple of questions and answers. Yeah, has anybody got any burning questions for Paul? Yes, sir.
I'll kick off. Hi, Paul. For somebody like you just mentioned that one of the not very nice things that you experience is that you're on this side of the pond when you've got clients over there, and the fact that it is easier raising funds across the pond. Is there a temptation now to kind of think that, okay, you know what, saying that the bulk of our clients are over there and it's easier to raise funding, and it is much more for gym culture? Are you tempted to perhaps?
Yes and no. I love the idea of a sort of world ranking fitness app to come out of Newcastle, Northeast, right? I mean, I'm a Shields lad.
South Shields.
South Shields. I'm a Shields guy through and through, you know. So I just like the harder fight, you know. I think that would be a more interesting outcome. So, and I'm fiercely loyal of where I'm from, so I doubt it.
Yes, Louise.
Question. What are your income streams? Is it just the app sales, or?
Yeah, no, the app is free. The people pay a monthly subscription. So it was actually only 12 months ago that Apple released the ability for people to be able to sell subscriptions. And it only makes sense for certain apps. You know, I mean, we provide a coaching service. So I think, again, this is really, really crucial. The last type of app that we wanted to build was some sort of automated database. You know, so what, you know? We've always, since day one, we used a service called Intercom. Again, it's one of them other decisions. It's one of them decisions that if we hadn't have made, again, would have died. It's just such a phenomenal product. And I tell you what, there's a company as well who know how to treat customers well. You know, so how we model our customer experience is everything that we're learning from those guys. And they even reach out and help. You know, I mean, if you go and post if you're a brand new app developer to the App Store. I'll probably get shot for this. You'll never get a phone call off anyone at Apple. You know, oh, how's it going? How's your experience? Do you need any help? Is anyone can hook you up with? Blah blah. I tell you what, Intercom and they've reached out to us on numerous occasions. Can we help you with your onboarding process? Can we this? Can we that? And they're just. I really look up to them, you know, and I think I think that's one of the main reasons why 3 years down the line we're able to sell subscriptions, because we're delivering a service people see value in.
Yes, Matthew.
Sorry, a pretty simple question, but is there a particular aspect of your job that you enjoy the most?
Yeah, using the. If I could, I would
just go to the gym.
Yeah, if I could, I'd be happiest there. You know, apart from out in the wilderness somewhere. But yeah, I'm dead lucky to be building something that we like using, and we do this. We often train together. So every now and then, even though we all have our own gyms and stuff, we'll say, let's go and do a such and such gym session or something, and the team goes, and we'll all use the app and everything like that. And I just love it. Yeah, the best thing is actually building what we're building is the best thing. Just because I'm such a fanatical user of it, really. I mean, it sounds very sort of set up, but it generally is.
Yes, Kevin.
Yeah, quick question I've got. Look at the apps, a lot of them like Americanized, It's like,
yeah.
You look at the TalkRip, it's like QVC, you look at, it's like, this is too full on. Being a South Shields lad, do you offer like something from the area, Savoy dip the 6-pack? Genuine lad, it's great, and all that sort of thing.
You've got to bite in dollars though, by the way.
Is there anything like that is regionalised and like touches base on being American?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
I mean, Dave is a real character, the guy I work with, and sometimes we've named workouts in a very colloquial way that only we would get. That's been a challenge actually. You know what? We don't sell ourselves strong enough. Yeah. This is something I went to an event just the other week in the design centre in Newcastle there, and there was a panel of people from America in different fields, and it was abundantly clear to me when I left is that we're not selling hard enough, because we're too kind of like, oh well, I wouldn't want to be too, don't want to be too pushy. So we're going to have to figure that out, because I mean, if your service is rubbish, it doesn't matter how hard you sell it. But if it is good, and our market is in the US, we need to up our game a bit. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And sort of Geordie crack, if you like. It's probably not the best strategy right here, right now. But I do like the idea of a Savoy dip 6-pack plan.
Any more questions for Paul? Yes, sir.
I'm just interested in the development, the builds.
Yeah.
You said you did sort of a crude MVP in WordPress yourself.
Yeah.
And obviously you got a fully functioning app. What was that sort of transitional period? Did you outsource it? Did you hire somebody? Was the investment for the build? How did that?
Yeah, the investment mainly got spent on on the build and obviously having people working for. So we used a local freelancer, really smart guy. We still do. So one of the I think one of the hardest things about startup is getting anyone to agree to want to work with you. You know, not necessarily on a sort of supplier relationships type of thing, but I think we're just really fortunate that Mark decided he wanted to work with her, because getting good tech is literally the hardest problem for every single startup, and then keeping them is even harder. So yeah, we've been dead lucky. I think we actually have a relationship with a company in Ukraine as well, and they help, and you know what, they are brilliant. They are brilliant, and I was so hesitant to think, oh, this is going to be really hard. We're never going to be eyeball to eyeball. It's going to be really difficult to kind of get stuff done. But a combination of Mark being able to manage the local people that help us out, and these guys in the Ukraine, it just works. You know, I think the key is, and this goes back to the days in the design agency as well, is you really need to understand how you buy them services. Like, the worst thing you can do is go and say commission a website or whatever, and just not have the foggiest idea about how that works. So I pride our business on being, you know, the most easiest customer for the guys in the Ukraine, because we've got the ability to be. So fully spec'd out, you know, fully prototyped, everything done on time. They're never waiting around for stuff, and I think it's as important for the person issuing the work to a third-party supplier to up their game to be able to buy it properly. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
You did.
We'll have a chat.
Any more questions? Oh, yeah. Oh, we've got.
You mentioned that your biggest market is the US.
Yeah.
And then you said that you need to increase or strengthen your marketing.
Yeah.
So what are your ideas of enlarging your market in the US?
Well, the main focus right now is to climb the ranks. It's so important. We've just got ASO, App Store Optimization, is just our daily discussion topic. We believe that a good service isn't good enough, it has to be remarkable. So once you've managed to pin that down, then you've got a chance. And then you've just got to, we've got to work with the platform that we're on. It's certainly not a level playing field. You know, the App Store is not a great place for a startup, I don't believe. You know, you need, when I look at our competitors and the amount of coverage that they get, and they've got great apps, you know, I would never ever criticise what they've got. They've got great apps, and it's brilliant that they're getting people training as well. It would be nicer if there was a way for some of the aspiring new blood to come along and be able to get seen as well, without having to continually spend. You know, it's really tough. You know, years ago, I think there's always been that misconception. Oh, well, we'll just build a website, put it up there, tick in a box, brilliant. That'll work. And then there's no, you know, you need probably 5 to 10 times your budget for building it to be able to do anything with it, you know, to get it out there and make it a success. And it's just the same with apps, you know, just being there. I mean, there's so many. It's ridiculous.
Paul, we've got time for one more question. All right, and we'll try and cut it. Yes, Carl?
Hi. I know you.
Is there anything you would have done differently?
In which aspect? Like,
just that you think that if you could wind the clock back 3 years knowing what you know now.
All right. I wouldn't have spent as much money on Facebook ads. Here's the problem that I think is going to always, I'll always look back on, is we now collect so much data, and you're told this. Listen, if you can't measure it, you can't really improve. But we collect so much information from all sorts of different places. I've got no idea how to do half of it, you know. So I just wish that it was more obvious in how to manage the access of the information that you're getting. So I put more onus on. So like the app, it generates around about 800,000 to 1 million data points a month. right? So that you could spend the rest of your days just looking at them thinking, oh, hey, there's an opportunity. Oh, wow, that must mean this, and that must mean that. But I still think it's all just pure guesswork. But I tell you what, if you talk to customers and genuinely talk to them and don't talk to them about yourselves, you can learn a hell of a lot more from that than I can from looking at some sort of metric of, oh, that's shifted a 0.1% shift since we moved that button to there. You know, it's like, oh, so what, you know? That might be a really...
No, it's kind of quite interesting because the world, as we know now, is moving much more into even bigger and bigger data, isn't it?
Yeah,
Data
yeah.
and bigger
But I think you need to be able to know what you're doing with it.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you know what I mean? You can make panic decisions as well, you know, when numbers aren't quite going in the right direction, and you might perhaps spend a bit more money on just experiment, you know, whatever, even if it's working. I mean, we've got a conversion from trial to paid at the minute, which is ridiculously good, right? And I'm not going to say what it is, but it's ridiculously good. But every morning I wake up and think, when I'm going to check the metrics, it's going to go down again. There's no way we can be that lucky, you know? I mean, luck doesn't play a part in it, but, you know, it's just sort of like, yeah.
Well, Paul, we'll have to leave it there. So a message there, I think, was pivot, test, talk to your customers, and I totally agree, talk to your customers. I often say this, if you're not talking to them, somebody else is as well.
Yeah.
So thank you again to the South Tyneside Council. Thank you again to Martel Instruments for sponsoring this evening. And thanks to Paul Slater.